Ladies and gentlemen, it's now 7 o'clock and I call this meeting, the General Government and Public Safety Committee meeting, to order. Roll call taken. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a slight change in the agenda. I'm going to move a presentation that the judge wants to make.
Thank you. Are you guys seeing anyone here from the family? I have some presentations I'd like to make tonight based on just a heroic effort by the police department members, specifically Cole Hudson, who's the dispatcher, and Corporal Joe Bellamy. Had to do with a call came in that there was a man down, and as a result, we took what information we had and got to that guy, and I had to call him a life-saving award. Through their efforts, they were able to sustain this man's life for over a period of 24 hours, which qualifies it by most EMS standards as a life-saving award. Have some folks here from Chance and some family members. I'm going to let you introduce yourselves, and you can stand wherever you want to. Just say who you are, dear. And we are talking about whom?
My father.
Your father, who worked at Chance's, right? Okay. And you are, dear?
Taylor Woodward.
Uh-huh. Are you a daughter?
Granddaughter.
Granddaughter? Okay.
I'm Hannah Sue. I'm also a granddaughter.
Okay. Sir?
Charlie Brush, maintenance supervisor.
Yes, sir. Charlie?
I'm Jerry Jennings. I'm the manager of industrial hygiene and safety for Hubble Power Systems.
We're very fortunate. We just received a lot of great information and accolades, not only from Chance but from the family, and it just seemed to me that just more than the chief saying thank you, my folks are deserving of. First, I'd like Nicole. Oh, there she. Nicole's got her family here with her tonight too, and if you remember their names, why don't you tell us who your family is?
Todd, my husband, Gracie, and Sydney, and Reagan.
Okay. We're here tonight to give Nicole a certificate of recognition of her distinguished service and attention to detail as displayed in the side of the event. During the early morning hours of December 18th, 2012, Centralia Police Department dispatcher Nicole Hudson, I spelled it right on yours, I may have made a little mistake. Anyway, received a call on the Chance Hubble line of a man down in a Chance Hubble building. Dispatcher Hudson immediately advised Corporal R.J. Bellamy of the situation as she attempted to gain as much information as possible relative to the call. The call came into the police department at 6:02 a.m. Dispatcher Hudson was able to gather enough information to allow Corporal Bellamy to arrive on the scene at 6:04. Dispatcher Hudson remained on task, which led to the overall success in this incident. Dispatcher Hudson's immediate and decisive actions directed Corporal Bellamy to a life-threatening situation, and as a result of her actions, helped sustain the life of Thomas G. Ludwig. Centralia Police Department Dispatcher Nicole Hudson is hereby recognized for her outstanding attention to detail and exemplary performance. Thank you. Can you get a picture with their holding out with their family? Do you? We always act like we gotta rush through these things, in fact, we don't. I appreciate you all being here. All right. Now. If you can remember their names, you can introduce your family that's here tonight too.
That's my wife Angela, my daughter Krista, and my son Eli.
On behalf of City Council, Mayor David Wilkins. You can read it through that. It's a life-saving award presented to Corporal R.J. Bellamy, January 15, 2013, for distinguished action taken to sustain or save the life of another person, December 19, 2012. All right, hold on. I may just frame myself, well, that's a lie. I stole this Miller frame. Yeah, thank you very kindly. In recognition, this is a life-saving certificate that goes with the plaque. Corporal R.J. Bellamy, recognition of distinguished life-saving actions and outstanding service displayed as indicated in this event. Basically, it says the same thing, but original call came in to the police department at 6:02. Corporal Bellamy arrived at 6:04. He took what information he had and he went to a building that he knew where there was activity. Corporal Bellamy, with the assistance of Chance Hubble workers, located the patient who was on the floor and not breathing. Corporal Bellamy began life-saving procedures immediately and continued the procedures until the arrival of additional EMS. Corporal Bellamy's immediate and decisive actions were directly responsible for saving the life of Tom Ludwig. Corporal Bellamy's performance was in keeping with the outstanding dedication to duty that he shows each and every day as a corporal and officer, Centralia Police Department.
Good job.
Stand there. You get one of them? All right, folks. I just can't tell you how blessed we are. Got to come folks that make up not only the police department, but the fire department as well. I'm just pretty pleased of the dedication that my folks showed for what they did tonight. Appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you, sir. It's a great deal to me. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Commissioner. Thank you.
Before we open up to comments from citizens. Understand that there's a specific line item if you're here to discuss credit. And there's also a discussion about the SROs we'll have a little bit later on tonight. So if your public comments are about that, we'll be talking about that later in the agenda. So before we open up public comments also, I'd like to, because we have such a crowd, could I limit everyone to about 5 minutes apiece? And that would greatly be appreciated. So I'm opening up the floor to comments from citizens. Please state your name and your address.
Art Downs, 230 South Rollins, Centralia. I've got a couple of questions about how documents are forwarded. And one is I've delivered several server numbers into your clerk to go to the prosecuting attorney or city county's prosecuting attorney, state's prosecuting attorney. And after she contacted me, she said that she only handles stuff through the police department, which is in total contrast with an email that I have from the Missouri Attorney General's office that said that I should deliver stuff to her. So I'd like for you guys to look into that.
Something you delivered to Heather.
Well, she basically, I tried to, I told Heather and I tried to see if I made it to April Wilson. And then she called me back after a given period of time and said that everything had to go through the police department, which is contrary to an email I have from the Attorney General's office.
Who did you receive the call from, Heather or April?
I received a call from April after I had called her to see if she got it.
Okay. And had she received it at all?
No, I guess not. She never, after she didn't, said that everything had to go through the police department. Second issue, current restrictions from the Centralia School Boards that I had received by certified letter, which was changed in August, states 500 feet from school property. I currently have a membership at the rec center, have frequented often. I believe it's within 500 feet. And I would think that I could trust, say, oh, you're on this lot, you know, you're on right away and all that, but with my preceding trespass case that I had, and all the stuff that came out of the woodwork, I need to know if I'm gonna lift weights with my son.
I can't make that determination. I mean, Chief, my assumption is that trespassing would be if you were on property. You can't be limited unless it's an ex parte or a restraining order.
Has that been a problem, Arthur?
I didn't, it didn't pass, not with you. But this thing is escalated in the same direction, and here's the deal. There's cameras over there, and I have experienced a trespassing case before. And as many documents I passed out, I documented my stuff with the federal government, my beliefs on it, which are contrary to some of the local documentation. And this is not personal with you, this is me getting the clarification.
And this is me asking you, have you had a problem going to the rec center, lifting your weights and go about your business?
No, I haven't, but I've never walked in the police station and had you tell me not interested before either. And that just happened too. So here's the deal, Chief, I
That's
respect
happened
you.
again, but that is a separate issue.
No, it's,
Yes. I'm not arguing with you.
Okay.
You asked a question, I responded, period.
okay. And I'm responding that after I got that response, I know my relationship with the police department's different. So, I'm gonna ask again, that says right on their policy that 500 feet.
I can't tell you to break the policy, I can't tell you that. All I'm telling you is, with respect to your question, can you go lift weights? By your own admission, you said it hasn't been a problem. It will not be a problem as long as you do what you're supposed to do. You go lift weights, whatever it is you do at the rec center, and go about your business.
Good enough. I appreciate you to go sign up for school board today and the police department.
That was never an issue. That was never an issue, and I'm not gonna argue about it. That was never an issue.
Okay.
Enough. Anything else?
Not with you, but with them. The reason I asked about the prosecuting, your prosecuting attorney, because it's the same thing when you ask about batting cage, same thing else, it's the, this committee or that committee, we don't have authority over. that's what I've been through.
I mean, I can reach out to April, because I'm not too sure, I need to find out what she's referring to.
Right, well, the same documents I gave you.
Sure, no, I just don't know exactly what she's
What
telling
she's
you, so I
talking
don't,
about?
yeah, what her stance
Right, well,
is
she
on that.
prosecuted me on a trespass violation before. I believe before she was the city prosecuting attorney, did it? She got hired after that.
I will reach out and I can certainly contact you. and find
All
out
right,
what she
and
said.
then, another note, and you may talk about it later, but within that documentation, I want to bring up a bomb threat that was documented at the federal level. And the reason it's pertinent is because it deals with this whole arena of school safety that's going on. And it's the same thing as people carrying guns on school property, and that debate goes from NEA right down to, and there's a wide range of opinions. And it all comes down to how credible is the person making the decisions.
And I guess my question to you, Mr. Dollins, is what action do you want us to take? As a
Oh, I
board?
want you to consider the documents that I've presented both to your city attorney and to you and to other people in your decisions about how you handle the SRO situation.
Okay,
Because I had a lot of experience with an SRO around here,
point taken.
which was all documented also. And I appreciate your all's time and consideration, and I apologize for this too.
I'll reach out to you about what April tells me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Hearing none, I close that portion of the agenda. General Government and Finance, Economic Development.
Mr. Chairman, Barry Stevens, who isn't here tonight. Yes, sorry. I hate for him, but I don't use them. Barry Stevens with Freddie, who talked to us last time, has submitted a draft service contract and work plan and budget for your consideration with the request that we put it in the budget. The copies you have are the first version, and Merritt has made some changes to them on basically grammar, typos, proper way to refer to credit, that sort of thing. So they're not of a nature that would cause the tenor of the contract to change. So I know that some of you had some points to make about the possible contract.
Sure. Do you have a representative from Credit here? Mr. Grimes?
Yes.
Further, Mr. Wilkins, I'd also like to introduce to everybody our new intern, Jess Lingle. He's a student at the University of Missouri, majoring in international studies with a specialty in economics, and he'll be he's working with us, and he'll be working with Lynn some on grant writing, regardless of where we go with this. So, go ahead, Mr. Wilkins.
Some of the questions I had, at the original meeting where we discussed having these items for credit and then doing the city, giving credit money or funds.
Sure.
I specifically asked about what the mandate or the charter, so to speak, for credit would be.
Right.
And I'm reviewing the contract that was disclosed here, and there seems to be a blurring, in my opinion, of some of the what you're asking. I mean, for example, in the meeting we had, I was told specifically that Credit's main focus is bringing new business in. Kudos to that, absolutely.
Right.
But if you look at the actual paperwork that was given, there's expansive things listed here, and much more generic and much more broad. And so I'm curious, what my concern is that there's a blurring of the lines between what we ask Chamber to do and what we ask Credit to do. And it seems odd to me that we might be spending money at two different organizations giving them the same mandate.
Right, and we understand that concern, and Ms. Simmons, of course, who serves on your board, and Mr. Shackelford is also in the audience that serves on our board, so if either one wants to step in at any time and say anything, that's fine. But and part of what Credit has done over the past two and a half years is we did what we knew what to do.
Sure.
And in many cases, that was retail sales. I mean, most of us are in the retail business and that sort of thing. We've done job fairs, we've done the Live Centralia program. These are things that we knew how to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying, Creddy's goal and Creddy's initial focus is industrial development and community development. And that's the area that we need to move into. With the addition of Jess to our staff, as he becomes our staff, I guess, that's something that we're going to work on. He's going to be producing over the next few weeks and the next couple of months a city profile for the city. That's going to be strictly for recruitment of businesses and retention of businesses as well, but mostly recruitment of businesses. But the area where we're headed, we felt like we've done all we can with the resources we have and the knowledge and the manpower we have. We could continue to do the same type of thing, but we're a group of maybe 10 active people. And really, we're trying to go into new areas. We'll continue to do some of these things, but to move forward, we certainly are looking at that.
Okay. Because where I started to pause, like you mentioned specifically promotion of special community events, like also you guys are going to be involved in promoting Anchorfest.
No, Anchorfest is one of the top 5 things about the city of Centralia. The Chamber of Commerce does a wonderful job on it.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Just in reading the actual verbiage, I begin to then question, there seems to be a blurring of what we're asking you to do versus what we've asked the chamber to do.
No, we have no desire to be involved in Anchorfest and the barbecue festival and any of those type of things. I mean, those are things that we will support, of course, and we do support.
Sure, I would help. Yeah.
Right.
Anyone else have any comments, questions?
I think the reference to the promotion of the community events had to do with things such as the human resources workshop that was held a few months ago, and the job fair that's held annually. Those types of events are Creddy's focus.
My only point is that I can't read this and understand that. Sure.
Okay.
And so if this is supposed to be an understanding or either a memorandum of agreement or a contract, a true contract, I can't tell by reading this what I'm asking you to do. Sure.
Okay.
And that's my concern.
Right, and I think that's the purpose of this.
Absolutely.
Is to kind of work those
Absolutely,
issues
and
out.
that's why I'm throwing this out there.
Yeah,
is
and
that
any proposals that
more
you have,
specificity.
we set this out as a draft document, and we're certainly anticipating that there'll be changes.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else?
I didn't have any other questions.
I'm sure you'll see Jess around about town. He'll be asking you questions, and please give him your support. He's working for all of us.
Yes, for the interim, he'll be back where Winona was using the
Okay.
scanner, and we'll set him up at that computer whenever Phyllis doesn't need access.
Where the scanner is and everything back there.
Yeah.
We are working at getting some county government space out, and hopefully we're supposed to meet with the county commissioners within the month on that. And hopefully we'll be moving forward.
Perfect, okay. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Moving on to park board.
A copy of the agenda of the meeting was held today.
You don't have minutes yet?
Andre was working on them, I don't imagine it.
Enough said. Cemetery board.
Don't believe they've met. No report.
Tree board.
They haven't met either, no report.
Okay, library board. I believe you have something in your packet. Any questions, comments? December financial statements.
You should have operating statement and balance sheet that Heather did. It's fleshing out since we are now, these documents are 9 months into the year. I have access to some of the occurrences already for January that really aren't much of a surprise. We had a dip versus target in sales tax last month that shows here, but it was made up, more than made up by receipts that we managed to accrue in January, so that's looking good. A little uncertain on property tax because they don't always follow a fixed pattern, but we'll know by the end of by the middle of February, when we get the January distribution, that would be the majority of what remains. And I think that property taxes should be above targets,
Good.
because the assessed valuation was quite a bit above what it had been the previous year.
Any other questions or comments? Moving on to bills over $1,250.
I have a question about the item for New Life Laboratories for $5,491.
Calcium chloride.
Okay.
When we spread materials on the street, we scan, we do rock salt, and we mix in boxes of calcium chloride, bags of it, so that it will help thaw the ice at a temperature well below what salt would ordinarily do on its own.
Okay, thank you.
And we hadn't ordered any last year. So
I know.
This was our first load. It came after the 2 snowstorms. Should stand us for another couple.
Okay.
There's 1 truckload of salt coming in, but we haven't received it yet.
Okay.
So
Thank
this is
you.
the invoice.
Pardon?
This is the invoice, which I'll see.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just had a question about it. It's like, okay.
I just happen to have it right here, literally, it's right the next thing you need to approve, and I'm like, wait a minute.
What I'd ask about.
It's at your fingertips. Any other questions about the bills? Moving on to other general government.
We have the code supplements, so anybody who has a hard copy of the code that hasn't already been updated, would you please bring your copy in, and I'll take out pages and add pages.
I forgot.
You're not the only one. There are about 9 out there somewhere that have been semi-permanently lost.
I don't mind it.
In any case, please bring it live, and also I'll do it overnight when we have that here next day.
Gotcha. Any other general government? Lynn?
No, sir.
Okay. Public safety, city prosecutor.
I believe there's a report on that, sir.
When you talk to April,
Mhm.
you might ask her if she's planning on coming down to visit the council
Okay.
next month or so.
Okay.
Thanks. It's been a while since we've seen her, so.
Yeah, that is true. Police department activity report.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as we go through police department activity report and then on to number 2, I might get into a lengthy discussion. If we could jump to the fire department and come back to the police department. Fire chief, I'm going to roll on out here.
Understood. Let's talk about the fire department's activity report. So if you have it in your packet. Any questions, comments, concerns? Fire department other.
How's your new truck working out?
It's, as long as we don't use it, we're probably in good shape, right?
Well, yeah.
We still gotta get it lettered. I've had some, Richmond's do some diagrams how they would do it,
Right.
but we probably need to change the way Lynn doesn't want to change, but it's just gonna have to be.
Why don't you expand on that?
I need to make the new truck 1101. And so, I mean, we're gonna have to, the yellow truck over there will become 1102. And then the old reserve will be back to 1103. And Lynn and I kind of discussed this, and I know, I think there's probably paperwork involved, but That's how we
Is
handle
it
it.
insurance paperwork?
Well, I don't know, I imagine it's
For,
probably truck
It
identification.
depends on how Phyllis is entering any sort of equipment charges for the record into the computer records.
But I mean, when I
Because
call
she
it,
uses those codes.
yeah,
I mean, 1101 refers to a particular truck. If it refers to a different truck, we're gonna have to
but I mean, like, when we use a truck, we wanna know I wanna know what the first due engine, I want the main truck coming and stuff like that, too. I mean,
So you put a call out, you want 1101 to be your main,
I want-
1102 is gonna be your second backup truck.
Always.
I mean, it's the way it's always been, you know, I mean, it's always.
They just keep moving them down in the list of numbers.
Well, now, admittedly, you haven't moved these trucks down for a while, so.
We've been there for a long time.
And then your point's historical, I assume. I mean, if you
Yeah.
go back into the records and understand that truck 1101, you don't even know which truck really you were referring to at the time.
right.
unless we have one number for them and for the police and dispatch, and a totally different number on our records for equipment, record keeping, inventory. Maybe the answer, I'm not sure.
Can't say 1104?
We
Would
have
it-
a level four, but that's not.
Would it make it easier for you and Phyllis to draw that line in the sand, say it's January 1? Because they wouldn't have done much to,
I'll talk to her about it.
yeah. It might
I,
be just
it,
as easy
it,
to
it's
cut
not
off.
insurmountable.
We can put the number on it, you know, still call it what you want, but we're gonna call it something else.
That'd be confusing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What wrong could happen there?
Yeah,
1101A.
we can say yellow, red, whatever.
Yeah, it's easy.
What's the difficult part of changing it? I don't understand what.
There are historical records that say for this engine, we have done X repairs and it has been used X number of miles and that sort of thing. And if suddenly we switch the numbers, then we will have to have a clear demarcation of when the changeover was done, so that you go to point A and use the one number and go to point B and correlate, so you get a consistent record. Otherwise, you're matching two different trucks.
Yeah.
We do less of that for the fire trucks than we do for the police vehicles and utility vehicles.
Right.
So it may be more manageable.
Would be better use the VIN number for fire and police. Because that way, when you get rid of a VIN number, that means it's done, you can close that record out and open up a new one with the new VIN number.
That's a lot of time.
I mean,
Use the last five of the VIN number.
yeah, that's fine.
We'll find a way.
You can analyze it, you know, just
Yeah,
We'll find a way to do it.
okay. Thanks.
any other for fire department. All right, moving back up to police department. Review state law concerning expulsion from public meetings.
I was told that you have received a copy of that statute.
I bet you it's in my car. Chief, did you by chance bring a copy of that? I apologize, bear with me a second. I'll-
We can talk about it all we want to.
Yeah, I mean-
Change the wording.
Exactly. I mean, there's a specific Missouri statute that says that the school board is the sole body that is able to create the rules governing how the school district is managed. And that was the very beginning of the argument, as far as I could see. Then it led on from what the school board, believe their policies, that they're governed Robert's rules, talked about expulsion. I don't have, I apologize, I'm trying to pull it up here. I've got it in the email as well. You might want to expand on what I'm talking about while I'm trying to find this email.
Should be from Joe last.
Exactly.
Last, Monday. seventh, wasn't
Just about there. I apologize, everyone.
Is that something that would be identified in the open meeting law?
No.
No, it wasn't.
it? Is there a specific question with respect to the statute? Or is the question whether or not we would enforce that?
Yeah, my specific interest was to make sure that we as a city were not doing anything unlawful by doing what the school board had asked us to do.
You
Based
can read
on,
statute, you can all read statute, but it's clear, the legislature readdressed it, in 2012 legislative session. But the fact of the matter is that the governing body is the sole authority for exclusionary purposes.
Mr. Dollins, do you have any questions?
Is that a blanket expulsion or is that a meeting by meeting expulsion?
Well, it reads, and you're asking a question like you hadn't read it, and I know different. The statute's clear. The school board and its governing body, which in this case is the head of the school board, has direct authority over exclusion meetings, period. That's in the statute. I don't know what we're discussing, it's not like we can change the word. The fact of the matter is,
I found it, Mike, I apologize. It says specifically, the school board of each school district in the state may make all needful rules and regulations for the organization, grading, and government in the school district. And then with that very broad statement, which is part of the I mean, it's actually part of the law, then everything else can be surmised from that. I'm not, past that, how the school board is interpreting and enforcing the rules, I'm not commenting on. But whether the police have to act on them saying someone's trespassing, I agree with what the police have done so far. I'm not saying the reason that they were told, I'm not weighing in on that. But I do believe once they're told, based on what the statute says, they're acting lawfully in what they're doing. It's RSMO 171.011. Does anyone have any other comments on this subject?
What?
171.011.
It's pretty short.
It's very short and sweet.
I'll just go ahead and read it if that's all right.
Go for it.
The school board of each school district in the state may make all needful rules and regulations for the organization, grading, and governing in the school district. The rules shall take effect when a copy of the rules, duly signed by order of the board, is deposited with the district clerk. The district clerk shall transmit forthwith a copy of the rules to the teachers employed in the schools. The rules may be amended or appealed in like manner.
It's very broad, but that is what the statute says.
Right.
To rectify that as open meetings.
Make up your own rules.
Well, I mean, my only point.
Basically what I'm getting out of that.
Well, I'm not going to comment on any decisions made by the school board in
this
their
body
acting
has
government.
nothing to say about it.
Exactly.
This body has, it doesn't matter.
I have something
This
to say
body
about it.
has nothing to say about this.
I
We
do.
don't.
I have
We
something
don't.
to say about it. I
It
just
doesn't
said
matter.
it's
The
broad.
statute is a statute.
I haven't even got the statute.
Unless you think the governor's gonna take your call, the statute is a
I
statute.
haven't even gotten one. You just read part of it and
That's it.
all I said
That's the whole statute.
and all I said was so you can make up your own rules. So
I don't make up my own rules.
No, I
Barry.
just said that is what it
You're gonna
said.
take that back.
Hey, hold on.
I don't make up
You
my own
know
rules.
Hey, listen up.
I didn't say to you for nothing. I said about that. Don't point at me. I didn't do anything.
That's enough. Let's, keep it in order here. That's the whole statute.
That's,
For that,
so I'm not allowed to talk about it then?
you can talk about it.
Well,
But
evidently not.
it's not gonna do any good unless you contact your legislator and
Well,
they change it.
all I did was ask a
I
question.
know.
Well, the broad, and that's why I said it's broad.
It's broad.
Right,
absolutely
it's very broad.
I'm not commenting about its use or it's the way it was interpreted by the school board.
No, I am
That's
not
what it
either.
is. And my only point is, because of the broadness, I believe that the police department acted lawfully.
And they probably did.
And that's the only reason this is even on the agenda, was because there was a concern and it was brought up as an issue. And that's why I wanted it talked about in this meeting, so that we could clear up, what did the statute say? Did the police department act lawfully? And that's as far as I wanted to take the point.
Right. And they did.
That's my interpretation of it as well.
That's how I interpret it. But I'm caveating that with, I'm not a lawyer, so.
Well, that's true. I'm not as well.
Yeah.
Any other under police department?
No.
Emergency management.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Protective inspection.
A couple things. With regard to some current dangerous structure notice situations, the work has started on demolition of Linda Yeager's house on Allen Street. Pretty well emptied out, and she has a good contractor who's going to complete that very soon. And with regard to Newton Davis's building on North Allen Street, there are nearly complete negotiations for the acquisition of that building by the Black Hog Saloon, with the thought of taking down part of it and opening it up for an outdoor cafe. And there's almost two separate buildings in that space. The back half is built separately, newer, better construction, and they may try to salvage that for some expansion purposes. It sounded very interesting. It's not a done deal, but if the sale goes through, things will be taken care of. And I would suspect that the city doesn't have to have any involvement in it. I've been contacted by Mr. Green concerning the process of remodeling the building on Railroad that Mr. Metter used to own. I think they are shopping for an architect to describe how that remodeling should go, since there's some structural issues that will have to be dealt with, but I think that situation will be dealt with soon too. And I'm pleased to report that we've already issued our first building permit for the house this year.
Wow, excellent.
So, those, let me catch up with you. You have copies of the draft of an ordinance that would increase our building permit fees to mirror those of the county, which have already taken effect January 1. The tenor of the conversation last time was that we don't want to subsidize the building permits by falling behind on that, which would be the net effect if we don't raise our rates comparatively. I think our rates would still be cheaper in Columbia's. And at that, this county reports that they're not breaking even by a long shot on their actual expenses for this. I mean, if you look at it one way, they're subsidizing us. Now, the question, besides whether you want to do this or not, the question I asked was whether we wanted to eliminate any of the exceptions that were in the present ordinance, where in some instances we did not charge a permit fee, even though the county was charging one for us to do the work. Those would be permits for churches, other governmental bodies, permits when somebody builds an addition to their house or garage, or substantial remodeling. And the the way this is written would eliminate most of those exclusions. I could see just out of administrative expediency that we might want to say, if you're putting up a storage in your backyard, we're not going to charge you a fee, because enough people don't bother to request a permit on those anyway, and I'm not going to spend the time going searching people's backyard and say, oh, is that a new shed? So I don't see the point in that, but the rest of it, I'm asking for feedback. How far do we go to eliminate exclusions, or do you feel some of them are still valid and we should keep them?
I assume you're talking about the bottom of page 3 of the ordinance, where you talk about provided how RP shall not be required the following. Are all of those we pay fees to the county for?
Let's see if I have a copy of the original. I believe that's the text, that's the current one. Public-owned buildings and facilities, churches.
But how many of those do we get charged the fees for? All of them?
All of them.
I'm not too sure why we should pick up the tab on most of these.
Yeah, that was my take more or less from what we discussed.
We've been picking up the tab for the schools.
Yes.
Which,
And churches,
And they tend to be fairly high-dollar items.
yes.
which I'm assuming the school out there would have been. Is
The
that what
intermediate
you're talking
school
about? We don't bill
would have been
schools.
about $6,000, as I recall,
Yeah,
and we charged nothing.
but we don't build big buildings like that very often. That
No.
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
No, and that was part of the discussion when the council first adopted building codes.
Mhm.
Their input resulted in those exclusions because they didn't think it was going to happen often. They didn't want to constitute a sudden burden on other governmental agencies, and churches, things that were public service in nature. On the other hand, the more I learned, the more I find that nobody else does those kind of exclusions as part of doing business, and that all those entities that did the construction had in their in their bid proposals that the contractor was going to be liable for all permit fees. And so I would get calls from the contractor saying, what's the likely permit fee in your jurisdiction for building X? And I would say 0, but I am not terribly sure that they didn't pass along an estimate for that fee in any case.
Exactly. My feeling is I don't believe these exclusions should be in here now.
I think it's time to remove them.
Any other comments?
I don't see that, I don't see that the schools have anything to do with it. The churches also, I think they do a lot of work for the city. I mean, I don't see how much money did we lose on churches? I mean, we didn't build.
There have been 3 churches that built very large recreation, community center sorts of
But that's
additions.
things for the community.
Yes.
Those things are for the community, to help the community out.
Yes.
That was kind
Just
of
like
my
if
thinking
the
too.
library was to build an addition, we charge them to.
We, if you change the way that was suggested, yes, we would charge them. The existing library as is, we did not charge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but if something happens and they get their grant next year, then we would charge them.
Well, it's not a matter of so much of us charging them, it's a matter of they are paying, they are getting the service and it's, going to be taken care of in their bidding process. That it would be covered by the contractors, because generally that is the way it's done, contractor is responsible for paying those. I would guess that most of these people, these contractors, they're in a little bit of disbelief when Lynn tells them 0, so I'm sure they put a value in for it. That then becomes money in their pocket.
Not the church, the contractor.
contractor, yes, not the church.
I don't see why we need to change for the churches and the schools. I'm not.
And hospitals and health clinics and public utilities, or public entities.
I mean, I just think the best place to take care of this is just pass it through, let the county take care of it. They pay the fees that we pay, and
We're not making a profit off this.
we're not making a profit.
Well, no, we're not making a profit off of it, for sure, but we're still paying taxes on the school, we're still paying taxes on
Yes.
the library.
What about the church?
We would pay, well, I don't pay taxes on the church,
Now,
no.
I'm giving your example though, of the three that you said should be.
But they do a lot of, public service.
They certainly
Churches
do.
a
Yeah,
lot of
I would
public
disagree with
service.
that.
I believe that they do.
This isn't about charging them, it's about letting them carry their own freight. Where the city can use the money for its streets.
That's just my opinion.
Lynn, do I understand that even though we do not assess a permit fee, building permit fee for these entities, we are assessed one by the county, and we are paying that for these entities?
That's correct.
Okay.
The county will assign a fee to a permit based on how they would do it outside of our jurisdiction.
Okay,
And it's our choice whether we pass that along to the builder or not.
okay,
But they're gonna bill us, they bill us theoretically every 6 months. They went for a whole year, it's the last time before we got the bill through for the whole calendar year 2012, which, as you recall, was probably about 15,000 plus,
mhm,
and it's gonna go up.
right. That's all.
I mean, realistically, what it boils down to is if we do this, there are other things that we're not paying for. And
Right.
that is probably mostly coming out of the street and storm sewer budget. So their streets and storm sewers are not being taken care of as much as we could take care of them if we subsidize something else.
Yeah, it's money out of our account, I mean.
Well, that's why I was asking for the clarification, make sure I understood it in my mind, and I do now. And that's, yeah, I know people are used to having things a certain way, but, you know, times are changing.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
Sorry. And Lynn, you're looking for guidance as to how this should be written before we vote on it.
Right.
That's a draft. already.
This is a draft
Absolutely.
ordinance. I certainly, it sounds like you want to just mirror the fee schedule itself with the county. So then the question is that one paragraph about exclusions. Do you want to eliminate it or eliminate part of them, or keep it the way it is?
First, what are your thoughts?
I've already stated mine.
You want all the exclusions are there to remain, or the exclusion of churches, public,
All the exclusions that were already there.
including the, one family and two family dwellings, including detached garages?
I think that's remarkable.
Just the electric or gas inspections. Fees shall not be.
Oh, I'm sorry,
required for permits
right,
for
right,
electric
right,
or gas
right.
inspections or for manufactured homes.
To remodeling or construction of additions to existing one family or two
Libraries,
family dwellings.
museums, assemblies, churches, education.
Those fees, if you leave them in, those, a courtesy gas inspection, or electric inspection or a retag before we reestablish service is going up, I believe, to $30. So we are also leaving those. Frequently, on behalf of realtors and banks, when they go through and are selling a property, they have to have those sorts of re-inspections before they're allowed to reestablish service with, particularly the gas company. If you've been off for 6 months, you have to have a pressure test before you can get the service turned back on.
Gotcha. Catherine, your thoughts?
all right. It hasn't been that long since the rec center was built. Hasn't been that long since the new intermediate school was built. As Lynn pointed out, there were several churches that did some extensive remodels. My church being one of them.
Okay.
I'm thinking the time is coming right now. Everybody's gonna be looking at what they've got. There's not going to be all of those, remodeling, construction going on right now. So for the time being, I think we need to mirror what the county is billing us. And then at some point in the future, if we need to, we can look at changing it or amending it.
Okay,
That's my thoughts.
okay. John?
I'm in favor of passing the fees that we're incurring as a city on to the builders regardless.
Okay.
I'm down with Kathy on that deal.
I'm sorry?
I'm with Kathy on it.
Okay.
Kathy.
Okay.
Kathy.
Sorry. I was like, it was Kathy. Awesome, would you tell me what she thinks then? Lynn, did I give you correction?
I think that is sufficient. I will prepare it as if we are eliminating all those exclusions, and then if somebody disagrees, they can recommend an amendment to the ordinance that appears on the next agenda. And this will be available next Monday.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Was that everything under protective inspections?
I think he said that's plenty.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, yes.
I was gonna say, I thought you had
Yes.
something.
I did, get this letter from Eric this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to read it and sign it yet. But I'll have, more information on that next Monday. So, I got into town late this evening, I haven't had a chance to review it.
Are
And
you referring to the letter to Clifford?
Yes,
Rosa?
yes. If there's any changes that need to be made to it, I'll have them make them, and then,
And you'll be doing it on Monday.
yeah, I'll have a full report next Monday.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Moving on to other. The further preliminary budget discussion.
This may be a place where we discuss
Yes.
credit in the SRO also.
Yes.
You should have summary of the general fund on 3 pages. First page is the usual format, and it deals with revenue. And we're looking at, as I reported earlier, at beating targets for revenue compared to the budget. There will be a little bit less total revenue, but a large part of that relates to the fact that we won't be getting any more money out of the Safe Routes to School grant, which was almost $20,000. So that accounts for a good part of the difference. Most of the rest of it includes a very, very modest supposition that sales tax will go up and the property taxes will go up, because I know that there are new permits being issued all the time. And very few demolition permits, so I expect assessed valuation to continue to rise. If I look at the sales tax reports, would indicate that there's quite a bit of activity on car sales, so that would imply personal property taxes would be going up also, probably enough to offset any of the depreciated value on personal property tax for chance robots. So, then you have a second page which are summaries of the expenditures by activity code. And we are on track to spend less than budgeted. There's still some slack built in there for contingency in my mind. With 3 months actual still to go, and we could have major snowstorms from here through the end of March and put a big hit on the budget, but right now it looks like we'll be under. That money will carry over and be available for next year. Next year, has modest increases in most things. A little bit of extra allowance in the police patrol and administration. Mostly because there are, I believe, 3 longevity increases that will take effect. And a little bit of extra vacation time for one officer, I think I remember that. So there will be some extra salary expenses in those activities. I don't recall that there's anything else. We will devote less special time to storm drainage and more special time to road maintenance, sidewalks and that sort of things, but that's sort of a net wash. You know, we use the labor one
Is that because Miles Street project is?
Well, it's at a point where we can delay for a year
Okay.
and deal with the cover under the parking lot.
Okay.
I hope. So if you look at all that, you learn that actually we would have a small operating loss, but it's made up by carryover. Part of it is money that just rolls over from year to year as our contingency reserve. At the moment, that's predicated to go up by 1.8%, which is the inflation rate for last year through November. I will know in another week whether that goes up or down. I suspect it will. If anything goes down, it might be as low as 1.7, but that would make just a couple $1,000 difference in this. If you spent all the contingency reserve and all of the escrow money, we would be spending $400,000 more than we're taking in. I don't expect that. I expect all that money to be available still at the end of next year. The special capital items that are shown in the next to last column are pretty much actual numbers now. So for next year, just because it's not yearly, I have the warranty on the recorder system shown as a special expenditure. It comes up every third year. There is fixing air compressor. I think that's in the wrong place. The 21,000 should be up under the 1/2 SRO. Sorry.
Oh, I see.
I was in a bit of a hurry.
So instead of transfer,
Yeah. The compressor's in good shape. It doesn't, we're pushing that out for several years.
I think it's on the transfer cap project fund truck.
I'm seeing it.
Well,
So
in any
it
case,
needs
it
to go
should be
up?
up under the 1215 1/2 SRO as a discussion item. If we actually agree to go through with this, then I would probably recognize a revenue and an expenditure twice that. This right now is just a net number, but the way the spreadsheet works, it doesn't matter.
Understood.
There is 18,000 for street engineering.
animal control pickup.
It should,
That's what I got.
yeah, it should be animal control pickup.
Yeah.
I'm losing the line here, and I was thinking maybe when I eliminated something that the columns went wrong. Okay, Chief previously told you how he'd like to deal with
Yes.
moving the current patrol four-wheel drive car to be a vehicle for bias, buying a smaller, new, not used from the highway patrol, and so that would be approximately the cost. Now we get to the pickup replacement for the Street Department, 23. 10,000 requested for Ready, 7,500 requested for the demolition program, which would be 5 houses just like that this year. And previously, I've been trying to keep money in for that storm sewer underneath the parking lot, and I've been using 22. I haven't changed that number, but if we do everything that's on that list, and we carry over a surplus in addition to the escrow and contingency funds of about 37,000, I'm almost $10,000 short. Now, I would think it probably likely that I will close that gap just by having the departments keep that careful control over expenditures, and because there's still some slack in my estimating that will not be needed when we get down to the last month. So I would think that if we look at that, we're getting close to a balanced budget.
Okay.
Well, I'll know pretty much by this time next month.
Well, we discussed it just briefly, but I think all of us were at yesterday's meeting. We were talking about the school board meeting, I apologize. Any comments?
I would like to thank the school board members who are here
Absolutely.
tonight.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you coming and listening in on our discussions.
Any comments? Alderman? Yes, Robert? Yeah, there's memorandum of understanding.
We just got it.
I understand.
Right.
I should explain.
This is
that.
just a sample.
Yeah, let's let Lynn explain it.
There are two documents here. One is a memorandum of understanding. That was the original document between the city and the school when we initiated the SRO program under a federal grant, which I believe totaled $125,000. It dates back to 2002. When we completed that funding, we had to guarantee that there would be an SRO for one more year. I misremember when I thought there was a phase out, it was just bing, 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 and then all of a sudden it was all ours. About the time that the grant conditions went out, for various reasons, the school wanted to keep the program with some additional duties and make that officer a school employee, but retaining a city commission. So the board and the school agreed to a contract, which is the second document, which took over when Tom Fair became a school employee. Just for people that are around, we went through either 2 or 3 SROs before Tom became the SRO. So there was for various reasons, a pretty frequent turnover in that position. And
This memorandum of understanding was dated 2001, so this was probably the original.
the memorandum of understanding should have original signatures, I think. All copies of the original signatures.
Yeah.
And it was initiated before we started getting the grant money. Under the federal grant, there was some training required. I think we sent officers off to Albuquerque someplace for 4 weeks of training. There were a lot of bells and whistles that went with the program. And I do not believe there is a grant for SROs at this point. It was a federal push to increase the number of police officers available generally. And that may come about again, but I don't know of anything definite in the way things work. Even if it was passed right away by the feds, it would be 2 months before we were able to take advantage of it.
Right.
That's the second document, dated 2007.
Yeah. Neither of these are spot on for what's being discussed, or what was discussed here at the school district last night. But there are ideas in there that can be copied over, based on what the chief wants, because I think I've heard that we want to maintain the position as a city employee.
Right, and I believe that's because that officer receives the commission from the city.
Correct.
So, being the city's commission, we need to maintain.
And if we apply the officer, I think we would want to use an existing officer. That person would want to maintain the existing health insurance benefits he has. Speak on how they compare to the school, but certainly would want to continue the retirement package that any of the possible candidates already have several years invested in. So it's easiest in my mind to have a description of duties and just requirement that the city furnish one officer, not a particular officer, to do those duties. In exchange for doing that, the school will pay us $600.
Which goes with the whole fee for service that we were discussing at last night's meeting.
Right.
Why are we doing it differently than all the other schools around us in Boone County?
I'm not sure we are.
They
Yeah,
all get them from Boone County Police Department, Boone County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, but I don't think they're getting it for free.
Yeah. Well, they said they were doing it for free, I'm saying,
yeah.
why is it, why is it they do it from Boone County and we're wanting to do it here?
I don't know if Boone County would have the additional manpower to supply SRO for.
Wasn't that what was your letter in, that's what we read in the paper, was that Hallsville, Sturgeon, all the other surrounding schools get it from Boone County?
They're under contract. They're under contract.
Same thing, but what?
Some of those communities don't even have their own police department.
Harrisburg doesn't have a police department, Hallville, or Sturgeon only has
One officer.
one officer, and I think a second maybe part-time or maybe full-time.
So, I,
Two full-time now? Okay.
but they have a contract for services with the county for providing SRO or not? I can ask.
No. To the best of my knowledge, no, but you should get that from Sean Schultz, John Robertson, and.
I'm just wondering what the difference would be. That's why I'm getting it from us and Hallsville gets it from the Boone County Sheriff.
Right. I think the size of our police department would be a factor in that. And the manpower of the sheriff's department. Used to be, they would do all our transports for us. But then they had to take that away because they lost officers, they lost jailers. Their manning is.
Well, we wouldn't have to contract anything if the school contracted through Boone County Sheriff's Department.
And that's why we're discussing this tonight,
That's what I'm saying.
because they want
That's
to
why I'm
contract
asking.
with us. Yeah.
What the difference is. I don't know what the difference is.
I think there's
Why
some
they do
benefit in familiarity too, of the officer to the people in the
To the
community.
school, to the students.
And so having someone who is acting as an SRO who does not reside within Centralia, I mean, I think there's a benefit in that, having the person be a Centralia resident,
Right.
which a Boone County, a deputy sheriff wouldn't necessarily be.
Right.
I do have a question. Is there any requirements as far as, training for an SRO?
There would be, on down the road, to the Police Chief Association. We'll get her through, summer to what's called, SRO, or School Resource Officer. There's two stages of it. SRO 1, I think, is 1 week, and SRO 2 is 2 weeks. It's kind of a big deal.
I mean, I was thinking that I remembered that there
Yes.
was some training.
Yes, we,
So if that's the case, we couldn't just contract with the school and have just any old officer that's on duty perform the SRO duties. You have to specify an officer that
yes,
would go do that training.
I think it's the right thing. I think, yes, that's the right thing.
Right.
John, did you?
For clarity, is it a requirement or is it an opportunity?
It was a requirement under the grant.
Under the grant.
I'm
Right
not sure
now,
it's anything under state law.
right now, there's nothing under state law, but I think like everything else we do, it demonstrates due diligence and reduces our exposure both for the city and for the school if we do this training. They just cover a lot of ground.
Do you know about what that cost or what it cost last time?
That's kind of where I was going to.
I don't know, it's a week in Jeff or a week in, at the lake. A lot of times that SRO conference runs pretty much parallel with the police chief's thing. 3 or 4, last time, I think in Tom's case, as I recall, the school paid for that schooling.
Yeah, and if I may, we would be very interested in continuing that professional development for that SRO position, so I think the school would be more than willing to see that they get training whenever those opportunities arise.
So we need the ongoing professional development.
Yeah, we have professional development really for all our staff, and I don't see that making sure, at least on a yearly basis, that they have an opportunity to go and be with folks and talk about what is, you know, the latest best practice for school resource officers.
Well, I mean, I would certainly think that that would be something that would be worthwhile, because there are things about the school that are different than regular.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I doubt if there's a lot of tuition costs. The major cost will be the hours.
And the hours away from work.
Right, and depending on whether that officer goes back and forth, or we have to pay for a motel during our time in class.
Last time that was part of the billing, and I'm sure the school paid for that, it's part of the billing. It was from Sunday night, we get in Sunday night and turned out there on Thursday or Friday morning, so I recall.
Then we would have to give another officer to them when she's in training, or if the SRO is in training, we would have to let them have another officer
No, we do that during the summer.
during the summer.
During the summer, yeah,
Okay.
that's all during the summer.
That's one of the,
Yeah,
one of the issues that might have to be, I won't say hammered out, but the school, even with summer school, isn't in session all the time, so that would be the time that the officer would be expected to take vacation and do training.
yes.
But even then, if schools, if they're not doing anything at the school, the officer should be free to do other shift work with the police department.
Should be, if it develops like I think it should, I think it's my responsibility, the SROs, superintendent, building principals, to constantly be reviewing that safety plan. Just because kids aren't in school doesn't mean there's nothing for that SRO to do. You need to be going over those safety plans, going over those building procedures. It's ongoing all the time. There's shouldn't be very little downtime here.
Chief, have you given thought as to, assuming that this is a placement from an existing officer of the force, what the requirement would be to fill that spot? What your needs are from a man force standpoint?
Yes, I've given it some thought. Can we fill that gap? This SRO thing is job one to me. That's important. I mean, just again today, if you watch the news, it just doesn't stop. It's not only, it's just important to me, personally and professionally, as I'm sure it is to all of us. As to how we fill that gap, Mr. Wilkins, I have some part-time officers right now that I'm really not able to utilize through no fault of mine or theirs, just their work schedules have changed. Okay, that's fine. There are some other folks available to do part-time. I want to make sure that this SRO program is up, running, going. I'll worry about that other stuff later. true. We can worry about trying to fill the gaps best we can. I'm blessed with, staff and I'm gonna try to use that part-time help best I can.
You don't see an immediate shortfall that would be detrimental to the department, is what I mean.
No, let's not get caught up in that. Let's do what we can.
Okay.
How many hours is this SOR working, a week approximately, do you think?
Well, it depends on what you adopt. If we agree that the city's gonna pay for half the SRO, I just wanna make sure that, everybody's getting their share of the pie. Quite frankly, that might be a managing nightmare. It means so much to me, that's an issue. I'll worry about filling those gaps best I can. It's a full-time job, period, end of story. I don't know how you devote half time to that if this is what we're going to do.
Because they need to be an officer and a half.
You could
According
make
to
that
the
case.
hours, according to
You
that.
could make that case, yes, sir. It's labor intensive. There's 1,500 students just shy go to school out here in these schools. All of them are labor intensive. There's more than enough work for one officer to do. We're blessed in that we have Officer Brooks, Allison. She gets it, it's what she wants to do. We have the right person at the right time. The question is, for you, what do we do going forward? How do we fund the thing and make sure that we're doing the right thing? I just want to make sure at the end of the day that we're trying to lessen our exposure to a catastrophic event best we can.
Okay.
Just the best you can.
At the meeting last night, I think one of the people at the school board, secretary or something, was supposed to get some estimates and how other cities are contracting, how those contracts are working.
She did, she sent that to me today, Vanessa Richard.
Okay.
She sent that to me.
Does it shed any light on?
A little bit,
how that works?
Eldon's thrown in to the city. There was 2 or 3 of them on there that kind of caught my attention. But in the end, basically what we're talking about is what they were doing. And just picture this one more thing. This is no different than what state government does with those members of the patrol that are assigned to casino. They pay, the casinos pay for that off, period. All lock, stock, and barrel. This is no different. I just don't see it much. I'll worry about it. This is important.
So one way to do it would be for the school to contract with the city to provide an officer during school hours or during school functions. And then they would pay us and we would provide the officer.
Yes, you could say that.
That's one way to do it.
Without specific to school days or whatever.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The way that the draft was put together was an assumption that with Allison at her projected pay rate, her projected benefit rate, which runs 389 plus about $2,000 in operating expenses and forms like that. Because that historically was about what it was costing us.
Okay.
Some equipment use, because she's going to be driving back and forth between buildings. You're going to have to furnish probably the oldest car that doesn't have to be relied on in an emergency, but still a car, so you have operating expenses there.
Right.
Now, that's assuming no overtime. If you're going to build in some overtime, you have to adjust the budget accordingly.
Bless you.
They were talking about an 4 shift last night. That's 8 hours, and I'm willing to bet that an officer on duty in school doesn't really get to take a lunch hour, because that's when the most contact with kids is going to take place.
We'd also discussed though, like if there's a basketball tournament or something, that officer would not be there at that time, or some combination of that.
Well,
that they would
we have all sorts of
hours.
officers at sporting events and things now, and that would not necessarily need to be an SRO. I think the chief could have more flexibility. You may want to use the SRO, but that could be the office from the force, including the chief, who's in all the football games.
Now, the old SRO officer, did we have the car or did the school?
The school bought that car and I sold it way too cheap. The school had the car.
I was hoping they still had it.
Me too.
Why'd you sell it?
Needed the money.
Just to lay all the cards on the table, here's what I'm thinking. If we replace that truck with Sandy's, okay, the old Dodge, I'll replace that with one of those patrol pickups somehow. You could make the case that you could buy a little one, a little four-wheel drive, new through state bid. I just think of, anyway. All right, let's assume we do that. Then I'm gonna put Bob Bias in Sandy's old truck. We're gonna squeeze one last little drop of water out of the old truck. I'm gonna take his white car, put that in the fleet. That's a pretty good car. It's too good for him to drive around in. And we keep ownership of that old car that Allison's driving right now, which is one of the first 2 cars that I bought when I first got here as chief. Its days of high-speed little dragger about over, like mine, like me. That old car's plenty good enough. It'll last her a long time, last us a long time with respect to what she's going to be doing with it. Is it feasible that from time to time she has to put a juvenile in it and drive down to juvenile? Yes. Is it feasible that she has to jump in that car as we do now and do a forensic thing at Rainbow House? Yes. But the everyday getting in and out of it, starting and ramming and jamming, she's easier on the car. That's my plan going forward with the SRO thing. If we do it. All these things are workable.
Can I make one more comment?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Like I said, I think I can close the gap to a balanced budget this year if we don't have unforeseen circumstances. Thing is, on these, my spreadsheet goes out 6 more columns. And the results of those columns depends a lot on the assumptions you make. For lack of anything better, a long time I've used 5% inflation, which meant the operating expenses all went up by 5%. Revenue never goes up that way. If you're lucky, revenue will go up by about half that. So every year I get to the last column and it's like $1.4 million in the hole. And I know we closed the gaps, and we've been very, very lucky because inflation has been almost nothing for a very long time. But we're lucky that there's very little vehicle or equipment replacement this time around, and that's not always going to be the case. And so you must bear in mind that the SRO and any contract you do with credit are sort of building into the base and will be here fairly permanently. And that the hard choices for what to cut someday in the general fund to get a balanced budget may be more difficult accordingly.
Well, I mean, that's been my concern. like the idea of an SRO and everything, I'm just wondering about paying for it and where the costs are gonna come. Because I know ultimately, we can't cut staff very well, we're pretty much at about a minimum of what we can operate on staff. You can't take it from the electric fund or the water fund, those are utility funds. I mean, you can take some from there, but you can't fund a lot from there. Ultimately speaking, where it's gonna come from comes from streets and storm sewer maintenance. And, I mean, it's what you're, when you fund one thing, it's a matter of what else are you cutting.
Maybe we could cut
And that's our,
the GIS system.
that's still,
There goes our GIS system, and we give that up and have an SRO. Is it more
Another-
important to have the GIS system, or is it more important to have the SRO?
ultimately
Choice,
speaking,
it's coming out of the electric fund.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's gotta come from somewhere.
Right. Another thing to consider is Lynn's retirement in a year and a half. Okay?
I'm sure Lynn has considered that as well.
No, I'm sure not. When we have to go through and hire Lynn's replacement, what's that gonna cost the city?
yes.
Right now, Lynn is not using the healthcare system for the city. He's, I guess your wife has a pretty good plan.
Yeah.
So that's saving us money too. But when we hire a new city administrator, that's gonna add benefits. If that city administrator has a family benefits, things to consider. So, I'm like the chief, I think we need to have a school resource officer, sooner than later. I think the sooner the better.
I know it's tough, but
But it's tough, I know.
John, keep going.
Is there, and I understand your comments about having an officer in town from the city. Have we considered Boone County Sheriff and seeing what they have to say? Where they have supplied all the schools around us with a SRO officer, they might consider, probably not, but might, but I can tell you their revenue sources and growth of revenues has got to be better than this city's.
They
I
have a lot.
already asked that question, they said, no, they haven't checked into that.
I'm just saying,
But I can't.
huh? I think that needs to be on the table.
But I will say to you that part of their problem is not funding, but turnover and trying to keep warm bodies in positions. They can't do it now. I don't think they're gonna be aggressive in trying to add positions until they get the ones they have filled. But I
This would
will
be
ask,
This would be a unique position.
I will ask Sheriff Carey.
it is a unique position. I appreciate where you're coming from, but I think this is Centralia. Matt, I don't know how you bring in a deputy, FBI.
How many deputies, chief, live in Centralia? I mean, it's not like they don't live in Centralia.
I don't know.
As to a Boone County deputy, I don't think there's any.
I don't
None?
know any. We used to have an Aldrin County deputy. that
Well, I've
lived
seen
south, but
deputy cars around town a lot.
Well, there's lots of things, they serve a lot of papers, and that's what they're doing in town.
Okay.
And I get along with the sheriff as far as I know. You know how I operate, whether or not I get along with Mars and other things. But I get along with him okay, but I just feel pretty strongly that this is Centralia map. I don't know how you bring in a deputy.
Well, it's a matter of getting ourselves in a pickle. I mean,
I understand that.
right now, you've already said that the paperwork that is required of you has increased by
A third,
a third.
yes.
How many more officers have you hired on to cover the third paperwork? I mean, you've told, you basically implied over the years that you're short-staffed.
I have said that. I will
Yes.
always say that. If you give me 10, I will say that I'm short.
It's like, you can fill, I mean, I understand you can keep them busy, I understand that. But I'm not sure that we can keep them all funded. Where are we gonna get the extra revenue? Because right now, we are short in the street department and have been for years. The way I understand it.
We could use an additional one, but you have to.
We don't have to. I mean, there's lots of things we don't have to have, but I can tell you that I'm looking at what we're covering, and when you can't do a minor sidewalk project because so-and-so is sick and all of a sudden we're stymied, you're too short-staffed. If one guy doesn't show up for work and blows the work orders for the day.
Tell me all about it. You know?
Do you understand? And at some point, and also, in a few years, I fully agree that when we replace Lynn, chances are we will not be quite getting the value for the dollar spending. It's gonna cost us more, and we're liable. He's got the benefit of years of experience and everything in place that he's probably covering more ground than a new guy will coming in anyway.
John, I have a solution. The school board could opt to cover 100%. I think it's a win-win.
I wouldn't say 100%. All those points are valid. All those points are valid. But I'm telling you, it might just be with my age, it just might be that I've been here too long, and I think about that every minute. But I just want to make sure, I want to do everything we can to minimize our exposure to this kind of crap, because it's not stopping. My whole thing about getting Allison Brooks in as SRO is, she already has some rapport with these kids. And it's not so much, or to me, it's being able to identify where a potential problem is with respect to these kids. And that's all that is to me. Somebody being around there, being able to spot trouble. That's what that is to me.
Somebody there to
But
listen.
quite frankly, if some of my folks have to step up and do a little extra something, that's just unfortunate, isn't it? It's true, I'm up over a third, and this is stuff I put on paper. We had to put on paper. This SRO thing's important to me. If I gotta sell a car, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll sell you a pickup before I sell my car, but that's what I'm gonna do. This is important to me. Let's find a way to do
Chief,
this.
what fraction of your workload relates to student-age kids and
Well,
activities in schools?
I think Tim Beard made a good point last night, did he not, that if we're up a third, you have to figure a certain percentage of that, comes from a school. Now, you can't expect the SRO to do all the little things that come with that, but there are labor-intensive things that come with that I would expect her to deal with.
Would it be things like liaison with the juvenile office?
Yes, that's part of it, yes. Yes.
Would there be anything stopping assigning an officer within the department to handle juvenile matters without being a SRO per se?
You could do that, but sure enough, it just never works out time-wise. Just sure enough, if you're assigned to tend to the juvenile things, you're gonna finally get your 2 days off, and he's gotta take the report.
Well, same thing if you have an SRO officer hired, when they get their 40 hours in. I mean,
You can
here
make that
comes the
case.
next guy on the list.
You can make some of that case, but you can't make all that case. Because some of that stuff is gonna happen when she's off. But we have to find a way, Lynn doesn't much appreciate your city administrator, but we have to find a way, we do it on a limited basis now, some of this comp. If, say she goes and does for 3 hours tonight, well, if we can, we make sure that we get that 3 hours back. I find that as part of the minutia in this.
It's not whether I like it or not, chief, you're on a 2-week cycle.
Yes.
For the police department, different
Yes.
from the others.
Yes?
It has to be used in that 2 weeks.
Yes, I know.
And that's what we discussed from the last
We do.
meeting.
Yeah, we do. We tend to. I've lost a lot of my abilities, I'm still counting, I still look at it, count.
Does someone have comments? I had kept looking over here.
I mean, I'll have to, I don't know anything with me, I don't know the school or budget. I don't know if can they do a 75-25 or something like that, I don't have to be even thought about that, so.
I'll let the board members speak on that.
I wouldn't do about
The
it.
city wants to
I
pay
say
you.
5%, that's
Well,
Did we hire a assistant baseball coach last night? In the meeting, a baseball coach last night?
Assistant.
What was the cost of him?
Oh, it's probably about 3,000.
A year?
Yeah. It's just a season,
Yeah. So that might fill some of it, help. If we got a volunteer to help, instead of, having to hire somebody.
Well, I think that I speak for the school when I say, I mean, I don't think any of us want to put the city in a position where, it's compromising your budget and things like that. And I don't know where the conversation will go, but we're gonna kind of do what you talked about tonight and talk again. And, we want this to be a partnership and we want it to be positive. And I would concur with the chief, I think it's really important. So all of us need to find a way to get this done.
Right.
I think that our school board is willing to talk about whatever options we're left with after tonight. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think some of the points that were brought up last night too is if we don't both go in feeling like it's gonna be mutually beneficial, because I mean, you guys are spending a lot of time in the school already. There's an officer who's been, say, direct traffic, you guys are doing a lot of stuff, spending a lot of man hours. If we don't feel mutually beneficial going in, it'd be hard to make it work. My main thing was I'd like to have a really detailed list of expectations that you have with us and we have with you, so that we're both clear going in. That's, we'll make it very good, and the financial part, same thing, we both feel good going in. The Boone Sheriff thing was an idea we did, that hasn't been kicked around, it's gonna be looked into. The only thing I had, as far as, it's hard for an officer, if something bad happens, the odds of being at the right place at the right time aren't extremely high, but the identification point, part of it, having knowledge of the community, being in the schools and having a common officer, and meant a lot to me and also the other board members. Like Officer Brooks you talked about, knows the kids, and a lot of these things that happen, you talked about furthering your education during the summer, teaches those officers how to identify possible. That's something that we were very interested in.
Several years ago, when I was a high school principal, we were involved with Boone County. We did have an SRO that came from Boone County. And, it was Officer Dobson, as a matter of fact. It's been a few years back. I believe he was from Harrisburg, but it was not a full-time situation. He was not here all the time, if I recall correctly. And I believe that's right. Now, I wouldn't go completely on record with that simply because maybe he just wasn't in my building all the time. But I don't recall that he was here as a full-time person. It seems like we may have shared him some with Sturgeon, and they tried to just, move that around some, so.
I got a question.
That's been several years ago, that's over probably 10 or more.
Why couldn't the school 100% pay for her you all retain her as a part-time officer. She keeps her commission, she still has a car, and she can still work in the police department. School can pay her while school's in session, Monday through Friday, like they always do. They pay that 100%. Police department still keeps her as a part-time officer, as needed. She still has a car, and she still keeps her commission, benefits, all that with the city, since she's a part-time officer. And when she's at school, school can pay for her.
I'm gonna let Lynn address it for the most part, but basically, Clarence, we've tried to do that before. Lynn's gonna tell you that right now she's got built-in sick leave, retirement, and all that stuff. And that's a little bit of a concern for me through post, police officer standards training, post. Moving her to a part-time position.
Oh, she's still full-time,
Yeah, but you.
but they pay us
Yeah.
her full salary.
Yeah, but then I still have to move her to part-time because that's just, I don't make the rules with respect to post. That's different. I'm with you. I've thought about it all the time. I understand all this. You're on some of the right track here. We'll get this done.
Chief, I had one question on hours that didn't come up last night. Can you bank hours? Can they work, let's say, 9 months of the true school year? You can't do that? You can work 2,000 hours and then have summer, okay.
The best we can do is adopt alternative pay periods, and I think that Fair Labor Standards Act actually allows you to go to a certain number of hours in a 4-week pay period.
Okay. That's
We have
fine.
adopted for the police department a 2-week pay period, and for everybody else a 1-week pay period.
Yeah.
And after that, it's overtime.
Okay.
I still don't believe that it's gonna make, one person's gonna make it as far as the hours go. That's just straight school work, one person.
You mean because of the work?
Well, because, I mean, just straight school time hours is gonna be over right at 40 hours.
It's,
Without,
you're on something. We'll just have to do the best we can.
yeah.
And that is minimizing our exposure. I'm with you, Ferris. It's gonna be tough.
I don't see that the police officer that's necessarily gonna be there 8 to 4 every day. There'd be times when there might be off during the day and every event at night or something. But then there's other times other police officers would be covering some of that, so I don't know that that's a huge issue. But,
I agree.
but yeah, it is an issue.
And we're gonna do a better job of that too. I mean, that's just the way it is. We're gonna have to do a better job of that outside the SRO program. We just gotta do that. It's absolutely, every time you turn the news on.
Mr. Dawes.
Actually, because of my experience, I studied that school resource officer as it was before, as it was going on, and you have 2 other counties involved. And you have buses going to other counties, you have incidents that go on that involve Monroe and Audrey. And the whole school resource versus armed guard, the idea intentionally was like a counselor type position for prevention.
I think
Not,
we brought that up last night too. I think Mr. Angel brought that up last night at the meeting.
But you're gonna run into,
Identify kids early. that are-
He's talking about psychologists.
Yeah.
I don't think that's part of it, but let's try to get ourselves out, Arthur, of that old business. It's true that, Mr. Fair had some expanded duties, this, that, and the other, but we're trying to focus more on the safety of the schools. That's just job one to me, as I know it is to you. Just the safety of those kids in that school, no matter how we go about it. The first step is trying to find a way to fund this SRO and get that program up and running, not get caught up in the minutia of it.
All right, Chief, one, I asked you today, might as well address it publicly. If we were to step out and get this thing funded, if there would be grant money coming down later on,
Yeah.
it's my concern that I've rarely ever seen grant money come in and say, well, let's take this financial burden you've committed to off your shoulders. It's always been for one more additional, and the grant fades out later for you to figure out how to fund it later. But is there a chance that we would make ourselves ineligible for grant money being proactive?
I want to say no, but the fact of the matter is, if there is a grant available, and we don't even know if a grant is a twinkling in anyone's eye yet, let's just go on based experience since I've been around here. If we could fully fund this project, if the city could fully fund this project and we put her in a new Escalade and it's all great, it'd be a little tough to tell them we're hurting to fund this project. But let's just say we get together, they do whatever and we do whatever, we'd still be able to make the case that it's a puzzle we put together to try to make it go. We're not going to be the only ones doing that. Nathan Chipwood writes these grants for a living. That's what he does. And in the end, you got to put yourself in a position to be successful with the grant. Have somebody write that thing that knows what they're doing and try to get that. It's always a crapshoot. I mean, and it might be Nathan's better to talk about that. Let him answer that question.
I say, well,
Nathan, you wanna try that one?
Well, I mean, obviously, until Congress appropriates the money and makes the rules,
You
we
don't.
don't know what those are. I think nationally, school districts are probably, as we are, trying to make an immediate impact to deal with the situation until Congress can do so. So, it would be a long time before Congress comes down and decides on anything. Now, if we saw an activity or the regulations coming down that, like you say, it had to be a new position, then I think we could be in a position to possibly quote unquote terminate the position in anticipation of that. And, you pretty much know the rules before it finally goes into play. And I think we would just need to be prepared for that. And I think between, switching them back and forth possibly between the two entities, if we needed to at the last minute, may be a way that we could be within the rules. And it may come down that then maybe the school district could make application and try to contract back another way for it too. So I mean, until they put money in this, I mean, they're going to do the best they can to make funds available without putting undue hardship, I would think, on the districts and catching them in trap. Because it's not, we're not the only community trying to deal with this situation, obviously. I think they'd have to take that into consideration.
Okay, question and comment, Chief. You're saying safety is the primary reason for having the SRO. Does that assume that the officer is going to go armed at all times in the school?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. I think the school needs to have that in.
They are completely aware of that.
And
that carries its own connotations for some parents.
And that's why we're concerned with we as a district are concerned about the arrangement that we would have, and we'd have to run that through our insurance company as well. I mean, that's, whether it's a contract or a memorandum of agreement or what, I mean, that, we don't know. I mean, that's something we're gonna research as well.
I just know that some schools don't have armed SROs, but they may be rethinking that policy.
I mean, it is our intent that the SRO would be on.
The other remark on Karen not noticing the SRO we had once upon a time, that was when there were 3 schools, now there are 4. So that officer's going to spend a considerable amount of time bouncing back and forth depending on what the actions.
I think it's doable. I just think I think it's doable. I think it's a start, folks.
Did we come up with a cost to the end of the year? Was that the 18, I think I left it.
I think that figure Ferris, he was quoting a while ago was half of her salary, and then the other figure was half the benefits.
Which was
Yeah.
40.
I think it's right at 40,000.
Right.
It was around 40,000 per year.
Salary, benefits, and operating expenses estimated right now at 42. Half of it would be 21 for us, half would be 21 for them.
And that's assuming Allison, who's unmarried, no children, good health.
Yes, that's assuming her current benefit level.
Yes, yes, that's true.
Well, I know the school board needs to discuss more, especially the financial stuff that we discussed today. I would think before the board can move on any of this, I would think, Chief, you and Derek perhaps get together and actually work out the true wording of something, because we wouldn't be able to move on anything until we know what the actual agreement looks like.
And I'm assuming you're gonna wanna take it to, your insurance.
Correct.
Get that too.
I don't know how we really implement this by February 1, even if we really wanted to, but if you were going to do just for the remainder of our fiscal year, and then assume a full year thereafter for our fiscal year, we would be talking about an additional $3,500.
But I would agree.
So
that-
3,500 for
I
now.
suspect we're not gonna get anything done by February
Yes.
first.
I'll say that again, what now?
I'm not sure we're gonna get anything in place by February first, but
We don't need to.
Our next meeting's not until February, so.
See,
And, yeah.
I think if we target the start of city's fiscal year, we'd be doing well. Practically speaking, we can work and run as fast as we can, but I'm not sure having somebody in place before
Keep this
April
in
1
the
is going to.
forefront of your mind, because I'm telling you, nothing else matters to me. It's that important. My God.
We're gonna have to find something to cut. That's all there is to it. If we support 50% of this, we've got to cut something that we've already put in the budget.
Well,
That's just.
can you say that though? I mean,
I don't.
what if these guys come and say, I don't have to think that yet, what if they come and say, here's 80 or 85%, whatever it is.
But you'd still be down an officer in your department. I mean, those hours will probably be filled one way or the other, will they not?
Part-time officer, yeah.
But it's an expense. I mean, we're accumulating more expense, any way you look at it.
Any way you look at it, I know.
And I'm definitely more than willing to cut something that we've already decided, but where are we gonna cut it from?
We've already got the car worn pulled down there.
Well, I mean, there's a little more wear and tear, you know, driving back to 4 different schools, oil changes, gas, tires ain't cheap.
I know what your point is.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. You know,
All right, can we agree? What is our plan going forward? The superintendent and I try to work out the deals of this?
Yep.
That's what I would like.
I certainly
Do you
think we
think
need to know
one-
what the contract terms would be.
I can give some feedback to my board too about the discussion tonight, the concerns that the city have. Maybe I can start to get some feeling from our board about, you know, what links they're willing to go to.
There's a bunch of spare copies of this.
Right.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
And you think one officer can do everything that they want done?
Oh, she's exceptionally good.
I mean,
I think you guys are already doing some of it though.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
Already. Well, and plus, I wanna make sure, I mean, that is some sort of we pulled that off of.
Yeah.
That's just sort of some duties, I mean, we can make it whatever
Right.
we want to.
Well, yeah, that needs to be part of your deliberation between you two, is when you're coming up with what we really are going to vote on.
Those are-
But I think Justin made a good point too, is that we really need what's expected.
Absolutely.
And we'll try to achieve that as we go forward by, you know, the SRO could be, in sometimes as needed the principals meetings, and then the school board make a presentation, here's what we're doing at this school, just like the building principals do. This is all doable. Just not get caught up running down the rabbit trail. It's just-
I think, Darren said your next meeting is February 11th, and that is our next public safety meeting as well.
So you guys get to move yours this time.
You guys get together, and, you guys can get together and come up with what the duties and responsibilities are, what the expectations are. We can discuss that at our February 11th meeting.
And by then, we're down
Back
to
when
a
we
month and a
discussed
half,
it.
and even if we implement it immediately after the February council meeting,
Right.
it's not so much money that's going to be a drag on the budget.
Right.
Well,
For
all
this-
joking aside, I mean, if we do meet simultaneously, we would, I mean, the right hand may not know what the left hand
Well,
is
it's
doing.
true.
So, I mean, you know, Ferris, and that is something that we could probably.
I know you hate to agree with me, but.
Yeah, it could be our turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now, wait a minute, the 20, no, are you gonna have a Monday that's a holiday in there somewhere besides?
We don't observe Martin Luther King. We
But what
observe
about
President's Day.
President's Day?
President's Day, we
That would be after that.
Yeah, President's Day is the 18th.
We'd probably hit a.
But that would
Tuesday
be
or
your-
Wednesday,
That'll be,
same
that'll
week.
be our full council meeting.
Yeah.
It'll be that 18th.
Yeah, we'd probably shoot for the same week.
Because, you know, obviously what we're hoping is, depending on what the numbers are, but you're not going to be able to discuss what those numbers might become after hearing our discussions until your meeting. So we wouldn't be able to really take action until the whole board meeting anyway.
Right.
I appreciate you thinking about it. If something comes to you, wake up in the middle of the night, something comes to you, call me. Everyone else does, call me. But this
What
is-
if I think of 4 or
John
5
White.
things different times tonight? What if I think of 4 or 5 different throughout the night? Call you 4 times.
You better hit on it really good.
Do we have any other budget discussions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it. There is some legislation that just introduced for schools. Sorry.
First comment.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming, Darren.
It's a programming picture doesn't come in the focus for a couple of
Did you do anything more?
Close
Close session. Well, no, I'm just, I'm letting this go.
You're all right, you're right in my office. Which is always saying. Do you do any, like, sideline work?
Do you want me to recite it or go for it?
Kind of like you all do,
Go ahead, Kevin.
The Board of Aldermen of the City of Centralia, Missouri hold a closed meeting and a closed vote tonight, and the specified reasons for closing the meeting and having a closed vote are legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body, and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys will be discussed or recorded as provided for under section 610.021, subsection 1 of the revised statutes of Missouri.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're now in closed session.
Roll call vote.
Oh, sorry. Roll call vote.
This is one
Oh, it's a
word.
roll call vote.
Yeah, sorry.
Sanders,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Grinke,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Angel,
Yeah.
Nagley. Okay,
Now we're in closed session.
Now I have to find the copies of that page. Let me give these to you.
I think in the end,
None of these were in the electronic stuff we
they'll try to fund the
submitted,
same as that's taken
so
out.
I thought you might
I think
find them interesting.
it's better than, they're-
Should be in the draft budget.
that's the right thing.
Henceforth, you will be included in all of these mailings.
Both of us got the
Just like
budget
an homework,
somewhere.
'cause
Doesn't matter where.
They're only gonna post. Pretty well let pipes in.
Do you mind if I come back
Not a problem. I won't have access to each Civis right away.
Yeah, that's what I want to get into. I'm sorry.
Sure. I'll let the ladies know.
Great, thanks so much. Tomorrow afternoon, is that all right? I'll be about.
Yeah, I won't be back until late tomorrow afternoon. I have a meeting in Jeff City and then I'm coming with the Emergency Preparedness Committee.
I can do Friday. It doesn't really matter too much. I just want to get in and get.
Friday, I'm here all day. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm here late. Thursdays, I'm at the city manager's conference all day.
Yeah, I have to study all day Thursday anyway. Does it matter too much to you? Okay, cool. Do you mind telling them that I'll be in some random guys who just walk in?
All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Hey, it was good to meet you. Thanks so much.
Meet you.
Ferris,
Yes, sir.
could you make an inquiry, just about one for me to stick around here? Joe's the only one on over there.
Interesting.
You think?
I love it.
Steve, are you locking them out?
I don't know. Never mind. I apologize to Ferris for hollering at him like that, he didn't have that come. I refuse to let him be drugged down the fucking road by her, he just doesn't like it. It's tough shit.
Well, it's not all Arthur, and I know what their worry is. I mean, their worry, not his. Their worry. And I almost asked it, and I might ask it in private. I certainly wasn't gonna make things any more fun in here tonight. Should we adjourn to our office?
Remember when you come back in, that camera's on,
Yeah.
okay?
Where did the documents go to?
Sir,
I had a stack of the union's second proposal.
you didn't give that to superintendent, did you?
Don't think so.
You gave him a stack.
I did indeed, and I thought they were all copies of.
You'll find.
Here we go. This won't take long.
Okay.
Yes. And our plan to take over this. Well, if they, chunk of this stuff will pass. And I know, boy, David Bill must have stepped over those guys and smiled and said, I'll let you guys pay it if you so do that. Get it done.
part of it would be that, hey, James is gone. Yeah.
We ought to get his camera and start snapping pictures.
Start taking pictures. I go in the back and take some pictures. Hey man, why does it smell like smoke in here? It smelled like that earlier. Yeah, it's been, no, I asked him that earlier.
Yeah,
You know, it almost smells like a, you know.
I don't smell it over here.
Major report?
You do or don't?
I don't.
It's awkward.
Come over here, smell that.
Oh,
Leaf, do you smell it?
thought about it until right now.
I'm not sure what it is.
It smells like smoke earlier.
It's not.
I said something.
It's not smoke. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Maybe it is pins awkward in there or something.
Do you have your boots on now?
Are they cooking?
No.
Oh,
Did
is
you
your
remember
camera
to turn
back
the
on?
camera off?
The
No.
camera's been rolling since.
August.
Somebody have to edit.
Have a little bit of cutting to do.
I hope you can.
Whatever Larry said with James, we'll learn about that tomorrow.
Well, he walked out of the
We
room.
went out there.
I said, and we went,
So, we are now returning to open session as may arise.
I have nothing, but Ferris had a question.
Yes.
It was,
Yes, sir.
yeah, and I forgot what it was. I was so ready to get out of that meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion is
hey,
second.
hey, before y'all get up,
Oh,
I was wrong to holler at Ferris like that, guys, just flat wrong, especially with those kids there. There's no need for that.
I apologize
Hey.
myself.
That's flat wrong. I'm gonna try to guard against that, or at least share that with other folks and not just holler at Ferris next time.
thank
I was just flat wrong, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you.
You know, one might wonder if there's just not something about that particular chair.
That chair.
What?
Oh, hey, I got an answer, guys.
History, you.
There's a motion.
Well, there's a motion and a second.
All right, never
Further
mind.
discussion?
No,
You
we can
talk
go
further
on.
discussion.
Further discussion?
No,
I can answer.
Why are you looking at the
no,
camera?
I better not bring it up. I'm good. I'm good.
Aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, turn the camera off, please. Thank you.
Do I need to send any one of those?
I haven't gotten the whole list.
You know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, man. No, that's others. Show these in here because you can bring it up.
Oh, okay.
He thought that was that one.